Now, there's an article written by Burgess Everett in Politico saying that Democrats are telling Bernie Sanders, hey, your campaign's gone on long enough. You've done well. I mean, you did all right. You're competitive. You know, you were doing great and everything like that. But, you know, it's time to wind it down. Okay, it's time to wind down. It's time for unity against Donald Trump. Time to drop out. Of course, we knew that this was coming. Now, the article says, after holding their fire on Sanders for the better part of a year, the senators, and this is the one time where they actually mention that they're all backing Hillary Clinton, are gently calling on Senator Sanders to face the reality that there's almost no chance he's going to be the Democratic nominee. Now, they don't say outright he should quit. Doing so, they say, would be counterproductive. So here they are, right? So we've got these senators, and you will not be surprised who they are, or these congressmen, all right? You're not going to be surprised at all who they are. But they're saying, gently, oh, maybe you should just consider unifying the party so that, you know, you don't, like, so you can stop, you know, hurting Hillary Clinton's chances against Donald Trump. Maybe you should just drop out. The article continues, nearly a dozen Democratic lawmakers suggested in interviews that Sanders should focus more on stopping Donald Trump and less on why he believes Clinton's stance on trade, financial regulation, and foreign policy would make her a flawed president. That is code for drop out. You're getting in our way. Time to go. That's what they're saying. So what's interesting about this, right? They said, look, stop criticizing Hillary Clinton on the parts where she's actually not progressive. For example, the banks getting money from Wall Street. The Trans-Pacific Partnership or support of that before she backtracked on it, of course, as well as her hawkishness on foreign policy. Now, the reason that they're saying that is that those issues actually benefit Trump. That make her a weaker, it makes her a weaker candidate on a head-to-head matchup. Because Donald Trump could use those issues against her. I don't get Wall Street money. I don't take money from Wall Street. I don't have a super PAC. I self-fund my campaign. I criticize the Iraq War. And of course, I hate these trade deals, NAFTA and TPP. Those are big weak spots for Hillary Clinton. And of course, now the DNC says, well, look, you know, let's wrap it up, Bernie Sanders. Stop criticizing her. Stop it. You're going to hurt Hillary Clinton. You're going to hurt her. Okay. Let me get some quotes here from some of these lawmakers. Senator Claire McCaskill, who was a huge Clinton surrogate, by the way. She said, quote, what's important is whether or not he gets out, but how he campaigns. If the contrast is now about what separates us from Donald Trump, then I think it's fine. I just hope we can begin focus on unifying, because obviously a lot of us are perplexed that we could be facing a country led by someone who seems to be a buffoon. Hey, Bernie Sanders, bring it down. Bring it down. Don't criticize her on these issues. Stay quiet. You've had your say, you've had your fun, but it's time to let the adults go in the room. This is Claire McCaskill. Right, this is Claire McCaskill. You need to drop out. We need to unify against Trump. If you didn't think it was coming, it's here. The establishment hates Bernie Sanders. The establishment wants him out. And this is their way of trying to get him out without alienating Bernie Sanders supporters. Now I have another one. Senator Jeanne Shaheen, also a huge Clinton backer. Quote, it's good for Sanders to continue to raise concerns that people have, but I think it ought to be in the context of, this is the difference between Democrats and Republicans in the race. Once again, stay quiet, Bernie. Stay quiet. It's good for him to raise those issues, but we don't care about that. What we care about is our candidate, Hillary Clinton, winning against Donald Trump. See, here's the thing. On money and politics and on trade, well, there really isn't a whole lot of difference between the current Republican and Democratic parties. Both actually love these corporate written trade policies. Now, the Republicans hate any and all regulation on banks, right? However, the Democrats, slightly different because they're laughably soft on Wall Street while still supporting token reforms. Remember, Dodd-Frank, some of the weakest financial regulation to ever come out of Congress. Laughably weak and continues being chipped away every day. All the time. All right. Now, the article continues, quote, the subject of these comments is the general view among Democrats that Sanders has no path to win. Now, I think it's among Democratic politicians or the Democratic establishment. Quote, Clinton has nearly the number of delegates that Sanders has, and she swept the Vermont Independent in 3 distinct regions of the country last week. Notice how they didn't mention the superdelegates. Now, here's another one. Quote from Barbara Mikulski. Quote, it would be almost impossible for Senator Sanders to catch up, and he should do the math and draw his own conclusions. Senator Barbara Boxer says, quote, the writing's on the wall. Do the math. Really? Okay, do the math. Now, the math that she refers to was superdelegates. That includes the superdelegates that are actually supposed to vote with the people. Now, of course, some superdelegates, like Howard Dean, have decided, no, we're not going to go that way. I don't care what the people decide. I'm going to vote my conscience. Well, that's not your job. Your job is to support the people's candidate. And it's ironic that the Democratic Party actually has a system of superdelegates that's not democratic at all. It's supposed to bypass the democratic system, as opposed to the Republican Party that doesn't have the equivalent of a superdelegate. But back to the math. Hillary Clinton has about 300 more delegates than Bernie Sanders. Now, don't get me wrong, that's a nice lead. It's a pretty decent lead, right? But at the moment, not insurmountable. Now, is it a tough road? Absolutely. Does he face a huge uphill battle? Absolutely. Does he need big wins to catch up? He needs huge wins to catch up. And don't get me wrong, that's what we're facing right now. However, it's not completely insurmountable. At least not with only half the delegates being rewarded so far. So you have to keep that in mind. Remember, the mainstream media, the corporations, corporate media, wants to say that this whole thing is done with. And that's, of course, why they add in the superdelegates. It's misleading. It's misleading. Look, she has enough of a lead for the mainstream media to come out and say, yeah, she's ahead right now, and he needs some big wins to catch up and to overtake. I got it. I got it. You can at least be honest about that assessment. You're allowed to be. In fact, you should be. You should be honest about that assessment. He needs big wins. And we're being nothing but 100% with you guys when we say that. Now, back to the article, right? Now, the message the senators are airing publicly mirrors what President Barack Obama told donors in a private meeting recently, according to the New York Times, that while Clinton might have her faults as a candidate, the party needs to channel its energy into defeating Trump. Here's the thing, right? Who better to defeat Trump than the guy who consistently polls better against him in every single head-to-head matchup? You check the polls. And we've done numerous polls, but there are more out there. And you can go and look them up for yourself. Trump versus Sanders. Sanders crushes him every time. Whereas Hillary Clinton sometimes loses or gets very, very close to Donald Trump. It's stupid to put up a weaker candidate against Trump if you want to win. In politics, you want to put out the best candidate that has the best chance, the most electable. And right now, Bernie Sanders is the most electable. And here's what the Democratic Party is doing. Is that they're instead of choosing the most electable, they're actually choosing the least electable candidate to rally behind. And it makes no sense. If you want to win in November, you need to rally around the more electable candidate. You need to rally around Bernie Sanders. But of course, they're not going to do that. Now, this article gets a bit more condescending as we go. Quote, Democrats need to tread carefully in how they treat Sanders. His legion of followers will be critical in getting Clinton elected, not to mention scores of Democratic Senate and House candidates. It's unknown how hard Sanders would campaign for Clinton, assuming she does prevail. Well, at least they threw that one in there. Brian Schatz, I kid you not, that's his name, of Hawaii says, quote, I think that Senator Sanders has built a movement. And whatever happens, the two big tribes of the Democratic Party will be able to unite at the convention and be so much stronger. Now, I read that in here, and maybe it's because I'm super cynical, but how can we pander to the Sanders group? Now, maybe I'm the minority here, right? But I seem to be incredibly unimpressed at the Democratic Party and actually how they've treated us progressives. And they expect us to rally around them. They've dismissed progressives at nearly every turn unless they need us to vote them into office. How did that work out in 2014 when everybody sat home because they put up Mark Pryor and Allison Lonergan Grimes? In fact, Allison Lonergan Grimes had a primary challenger, a progressive named Ashley Judd, that the Kentucky Democratic Party and the Democrats as a whole didn't rally behind. Oh, no, she's too liberal. She's too progressive. We can't put her up. No. Even though she would have pulled better and done better against Mitch McConnell, we actually had a chance to beat Mitch McConnell. But the Democrats said, no, we have to be more conservative. We can't actually be liberal. We're not allowed to be liberal. We actually have to be more conservative. So we're going to go with pro-coal Allison Lonergan Grimes, who wouldn't even admit that she voted for Obama. How stupid is the Democratic Party? How stupid are we? How stupid? How come we never run progressives, but yet when primary season comes around, or even in an election, we've got these centrist Democrats or conservative Democrats running as progressives? That's funny. I mean, for example, you know, back in 2008, Obama ran an incredibly progressive campaign, and he won. Remember, he said, I'm going to change how Washington works. I'm not going to play the same old Washington games, just a little bit better. Well, it turns out he did play the same games, and he did play them a little bit better. And unfortunately, some of those games were played against us. Now, finally, the article makes a bit of a distinction, right? We're not saying that he should drop, but he should totally drop out. And what do I mean by that? Quote, there's a growing irritation among the lawmakers that the longer his campaign continues, the more he will undermine Clinton in the fall. Senate Minority Leader Harry Reid said that's something he's going to have to decide. She's going to be the nominee. Flat out, here you have a senator, a superdelegate, saying she's going to be the nominee. We've already made our decision. Who cares about democracy? Who cares about letting the primary unfold? No. We're going to put our thumb in the scale and make sure that our chosen candidate wins the primary. She's going to be the nominee. She's going to be the nominee. That's amazing. But back to how they treat Bernie Sanders supporters. Quote, but for now at least, Democrats believe measured diplomacy is the best approach for dealing with Sanders and his supporters. There's a quote here from Sherrod Brown. I don't think any Democrat should call on him to get out. Almost no Democrat I know would say that, and shouldn't. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means we don't really like you, progressives, but we need your votes. So line up, get in line, vote for Hillary. That's exactly what they're saying. We don't like your choice. We can't say it because we don't want to piss you off. But that's exactly what we're saying. So line up and vote for the coronation. Allow Hillary to have her coronation. That's exactly what they're saying. Exactly what they're saying. Harry Reid, she's going to be the nominee. Well, how about we let the people decide? Look, if they choose Hillary Clinton, If she gets the popular delegate count, well then, way to go. Okay, you've won, you've earned your place. You've gotten the people behind you. Okay, that's a different story. But see, why don't we let that actually happen and let it make you stay out of the process if you're a superdelegate? Don't put your finger on the scale. Don't mislead people into voting for Hillary Clinton just because she's a, quote, inevitable nominee. And that's exactly what this entire bullshit article is about. Now I want to end with this quote. There's a growing irritation among the lawmakers that the longer his campaign continues, the more he will undermine Clinton in the fall. So basically, what you're saying is that you're telling people to ease off on issues where Hillary Clinton is weak. Trade, Wall Street, money, and politics. Now, these are 3 issues that are incredibly important to Americans. In fact, 84% of Americans, and this is independents, Republicans, and Democrats, all think money has too much influence in our political process. They want money out of politics. They don't want Citizens United. All of that stuff. Very, very important. No. Don't Hillary Clinton. Shh. Don't mention that. Don't mention that. That's going to make her weak to Trump. He can attack her on that. Don't give Trump ammunition. You're going to interrupt the coronation. Don't do that. And besides, if you shut up, progressives, maybe we'll throw you a bone. But God damn it, you damn Bernie bros are making it tough for the establishment to get their preferred candidate. Why you gotta like this populism stuff? To that I gotta say, man, is it Bernie's fault that he's running up against such a flawed candidate when it comes to those issues? Is it our fault? Is it the fault of progressives, or is it the fault of Bernie Sanders? Or maybe it's the fault of Hillary Clinton. Maybe it's the fault of the establishment. In what might be the biggest outsider election that we've had, Democrats cannot do worse than nominating the ultimate insider, especially to run against Donald Trump. And that's not the fault of Sanders. That's the Democratic Party. That's their fault. And the years of that party writing off actual progressives. And look, let's be honest, if she becomes the nominee and she loses to Trump, the Democratic Party and the establishment have no one else to blame but themselves.